As a 21-year-old, one thing that I can tell you that we're good at is complaining. We complain about our jobs, our schools, you name it. Over the past few years, one of the things that we've come to complain about a lot is politics and the current state of the country. We often do this complaining on social media like Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. But that's it. After that, we don't do anything else. I'm here to have the conversation with you all that if young people want to see a true change in politics, then we have to start going out and actually voting. Young voter turnout has been considerably low for this election and the last election that took place in 2016. If young people like us want our voices to be heard and our issues to be acknowledged, then we have to go out and vote in larger numbers. If we don't, then we will be ignored. Talking on social media isn't exactly going to do the trick when it comes to bringing about social change. If we do vote, then there are many things we could change about society, but it starts with taking action, and that action is voting. If we do not vote, then our issues will be left behind in legislation, and we could be getting officials that don't care about us or our needs. So we should go out and vote and encourage other people our age to vote. Many of you are probably wondering, well, what's the big deal and why should I care about voting? And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why young people not voting is a societal issue that we should all care about. There are many issues in society that we are facing today, whether we are younger or older. We all have large issues that affect our lives on a small scale and that affect the country as a whole. However, the difference between young people and old people is the way in which we vote. Old people vote at a much higher rate than young people do, and because of this, their needs are being talked about in legislation while ours are being pushed aside. In general, young people vote the least out of any age demographic in America. In the primaries of this year, very few young people voted. According to the New York Times on March 5th, 2020, based on exit polls, and in most states, young people accounted for less than 15% of the total voting population. With few young people voting, our problems are not being pushed forward. They are actively being ignored. There are not many elected officials who are taking public office that represent us and our particular needs as young people, and who care to fix our issues. One large political issue that is affecting young people the most is student loan debt. We are disproportionately affected by student loan debt because over the past few decades, the cost of college has risen exponentially. CNBC on November 5th, 2019 said that 70% of college graduates have student loan debt, with the average borrower owing more than $37,000 at graduation. This issue is affecting many people, but it is barely being talked about by legislation because many politicians feel that college loan debt is not affecting their voters and their base. What young people need to understand is that the point of voting is to have representation in the government. Elected officials are supposed to be the voice of the people. Young people have to realize that without voting, they are forfeiting their own representation in the government and they are silencing themselves. Now that we know what the problem is, let's move on to the bigger part of the solution, which is what we can do to help. Here's what I propose. The first solution I propose is that the government make a national voting holiday so that we can have an excused absence for work and school that we can use to go vote. Having a national holiday will give many people a very specific opportunity to vote, which may encourage them to go out and actually vote. Many individual states are making Election Day a state holiday. According to CNN on April 13th, 2020, the state of Virginia had joined Delaware, Hawaii, Kentucky, and New York in making Election Day a state holiday. However, the government needs to take this a step even further and make Election Day a national holiday so that all people have the opportunity to vote. The second solution that I propose to young people is taking personal actions in our lives. If you are a young person, research places in your city to register to vote. Registering to vote is not hard at all, and once you do register, you should spread the word. Start a voting club at your school or at your college. If you have people in your own family who are young like you and who are not voting, then you should take the initiative and encourage them to vote. Tell other young people that registering to vote is not difficult at all and it's completely free. and there aren't many requirements that you must follow in order to be eligible to vote. Almost anyone can do it. According to USA.gov on March 10, 2020, there is more than one way to register to vote. You can register to vote at your local election office, online, at the DMV, or through the mail. There is no excuse for not being registered anymore. We all have the opportunity. The last solution that I propose to young people is by using social media to our advantage. Instead of going on Twitter all day and ranting about your political views, you should use social media to spread the word to your peers. Here's a fun fact that I think you all should take into consideration. According to USA Today on January 23rd, 2020, it stated that Trump's all-time record of tweets in one day is 161 tweets. Think about that for a second. 161 tweets. If you tweeted even a fraction of that in one day and you spread the word about voting, you could probably get the word out to many people your age. And I think something like that would make a huge difference. We just discussed what the government can do and what we can do to encourage young people to vote. But as I wrap up, I want you to remember, it all comes down to choice. Young people must choose to use their right to vote. No one can force you, and there is no law that is making you. It comes down to personal decision and whether or not you feel that you want to use your right to vote, which you definitely should. They must open their eyes to the reality that voting is one of the few ways we can make true political change, because any other way tends not to work in the long term. No matter who you choose to vote for, you should still exercise your right to vote. If not, you have no real voice in politics, and you are basically on mute. Young people need to go out and vote so that particular issues that pertain to us are talked about more. We can't just leave it to the older generations to make all of the decisions. This country is a country that we will inherit when we will grow older. So we have to take the initiative now to forge the future that we want to have. Young voter turnout has been considerably low, so we should go out and vote now vote more than ever. There is literally nothing to lose by going out and voting. If we're going to constantly use social media anyway, then we should use it to spread the word about voting to people our age. I want to leave you all with this thought in mind. There was a time in America when only a small number of people were given the right to vote, which was typically white men. Women and minorities had to fight for a long time to receive that vote, and we've only had that vote for maybe, roughly 100 years, if that. Now that all adults have the right to vote, we should take the time to exercise that right.